Morena everybody, ngā mihi nui ki koutou katoa. Can I begin by acknowledging the Chair of Payments New Zealand, Jim Quinn, Chief Executive Steve and your team. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here, and thank you for everyone being here over the next couple of days. It's great to have so many innovators and experts in the payment systems here in the room. Today, as Simon said, I will provide a view from the government that emphasises the importance of a well-functioning payment system for our economy. I'll cover progress made so far on initiatives to improve customer outcomes, as well as my expectations for future development, as Simon has mentioned. And I'll also speak more broadly about how we plan to engage with broader changes taking place in the banking sector, particularly in regard to open banking opportunities. But to start with, my priority is to make a very simple priority, to make a positive impact for everyday New Zealanders. As Minister of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, my objective is for all sectors of the economy to operate efficiently and provide benefits to everyday New Zealanders. And this requires businesses to have confidence in the environment in which they operate, but also for consumers to be protected and empowered. And there are significant work streams in my portfolio areas that have a remarkable reach into everyday lives, and of course, payments is one of those. The government's goal is to deliver an inclusive and sustainable economy for all New Zealanders, and we want to create an economic environment that encourages innovation, delivers competitive markets and supports honest business. And I acknowledge that New Zealand's retail payment systems are a vital part of the economy and will play a vital role in the government's vision. So efficient payment systems provide crucial infrastructure for commerce, as you all know, but they're fundamental in terms of the economy that needs to work for everyone, because they need to work for consumers, so they are able to buy goods and services that they need. They need to work for retailers so that they can efficiently sell their offerings, and they create opportunities for newer providers and innovators to offer services which can add value to businesses and consumers. And we can be proud New Zealand has been a world leader in payment systems, and it's because of the success in the electronic payment systems that they have become essential to almost all New Zealanders. It is therefore critical that we take steps to ensure that we continue to reap the benefits of a world-leading system by encouraging ongoing innovation, and the costs associated with New Zealand's payment systems are fairly shared between New Zealand business and consumers. My interest is in encouraging competition and innovation, and as new and innovative payment products can provide significant benefits to consumers, merchants, the financial sector and the wider economy. There are some great developments that are taking place already in the sector. Contactless cards are now ubiquitous and speeding up the payments systems across the country. Apple Pay has rapidly increased its penetration since it launched in New Zealand, alongside a growing list of other mobile payment apps. Innovative new local startups are making exciting progress in delivering new payment solutions for New Zealanders. I've met many of them, and that's good to see. And the worldwide development of an open access API will allow all sorts of products to plug into the banking system and provide more choice for a lower cost. I want to be clear that the government wants to help foster this innovation, not get in the way of it. But at the same time, I think New Zealand can do better. We were among the first in the world to introduce EFTPOS in the 80s, and there's no reason we can't be at the front of the pack in introducing payment innovations going forward. In my view, the most effective progress will be achieved when all players in the payments ecosystem work together to achieve the best environment for innovation. And given the opportunities available in this sector, there is no excuse for standing still. As you will know, there have been some issues identified in the past within the retail payment systems that we are still working through. Many of you will be familiar with the MB investigation or inquiry in 2016, and that issues paper that expressed some concerns about how merchant service fees and interchange fees are incentivising consumers to use certain forms of payment over other, potentially cheaper ones. It outlined how growth in credit card reward systems and programs could be increasing prices of goods and services for all consumers, while only benefiting the holders of these cards. It identified concerns about the level of fees that merchants, particularly small ones, face for accepting payment, and the report also outlined that many merchants are confused by the payments landscape and the fees that are being charged. But there has been work since then. We have continued to work constructively together on how we can make progress, and I've personally met with many of you on this topic, and I thank you for those who have got involved. Since I became the Minister of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, I've been looking for progress that shows me that we get further gains in respect of competition, innovation, efficiency of retail payment systems, and making sure that there's fairness for retailers and consumers when using principal payment products used by millions of Kiwis every day. It is encouraging that there has been progress made and that developments appear to be heading in the right direction. In particular, Visa and MasterCard have recognised some of their fees fell unfairly on smaller retailers and lowered the caps for some interchange fees appropriately from April this year. I thank them for that. Those companies have also made a commitment to provide more transparency on trends and average interchange fees over time. I do have a few expectations regarding debit and credit products that I would like to make clear before talking about some of the more innovative work in the payments industry. Firstly, I do not want to see further increases in interchange fees or merchant fees for credit cards and debit cards. I do acknowledge that interchange fees and merchant service fees have their place. However, I do not think further increases are in the interests of consumers or the wider economy. We and I have chosen not to go down the route that Australia and the European Union has done in respect of regulating interchange fees. However, that remains an open option very much on the table, particularly if we see fees rise again. Secondly, I want to see an ongoing commitment from banks and schemes to increase the transparency of costs associated with retail payments and continuing to educate merchants. And finally, I want to see low-cost debit options remain to ensure that merchants do have a choice about what forms of payment they accept. I'd like to now turn to some of the work that's happening in the API space, because I'm encouraged by the range of work taking place across the industry to introduce new methods of payment and improve the functionality of existing methods. For instance, the Payments New Zealand payment direction work to have 365 days service delivery, introducing proxy identifiers and fast payments and access to funds is great to see. I've taken a keen interest in the work to develop a standardised API framework. As many of you are aware, telling you things you already know, this involves the development of an account information API, a payment initiation API, and framework for managing issues such as security, liability, and access. I hope that this is a significant first step towards enabling a viable entry point for alternative party payment options. I'm glad that pilot participants such as TradeMe, Paymark, Datacom, Westpac, BNZ and ASB are all involved, and I'll be closely looking about how things develop. I particularly encourage Payments New Zealand and the participants to be as open as possible in sharing developments of the pilot with the wider industry and incorporating feedback from all stakeholders. Discussions around developing API standardisation inevitably leads to the discussion on the opportunities within open banking. Globally, there is an increased demand for access to banking data, and there is potential for significant benefits from allowing a wider range of access to that data. I've previously noted my interest in how opening up aspects of the banking system could provide benefits to New Zealand consumers by providing them with increased choice and empowering them to pursue and achieve their financial goals. Benefits could also exist in areas such as banking, competition, budgeting, aggregating financial information, and of course, payments. There are many approaches that could be taken in regards to open banking, and we can be informed from the learnings of other jurisdictions who have taken various approaches, but we do not want to be left behind. In thinking about where we as a government would like to see the industry get to, the principles in the Australian review into open banking are a good starting point, and they talk about a system that is firstly customer-focused, promotes competition, encourages innovation, and is efficient and fair. However, how we get there is still very much up for debate. You, as an industry, have a clear opportunity to deliver real positive outcomes for consumers, businesses, and the financial sector itself through implementing a set of standard APIs. I know there are more than enough of creative minds in this room and beyond to successfully open up payments and banking more generally. So rather than just thinking about this as an obstacle, I would encourage everyone here to think broadly about how opening up payments and banking can deliver benefits to them, their customers, and the wider economy. The Payments New Zealand API standardisation pilot provides an initial building block on which open banking could develop in New Zealand, and I would like to see progress that has been made so far under the pilot accelerated, with tangible examples of banking data being accessed and used by third parties within the next year. In particular, in the next year, I would like to see more opportunities for consumers to quickly and securely make payments without the need for a debit or credit card. While these opportunities may be easiest to realise for online goods and services, I would also like to see a real push made for introducing new payments in the in-store context also. And I want to see all of this lead to benefit for merchants, particularly in the respect of lower overall fees for accepting payment. Looking beyond the next year, my vision is one which is where open banking makes it easier for individuals to build their financial capability and access good quality financial advice. It brings a raft of financial data together for consumers and businesses in one place, saving them time and making life hassle-free. It ensures that consumers are able to access the best deals across the financial sector by making it easier to shop around and compare options, makes payments faster and more efficient, and finally adds value to payments, whether it be making it easier for consumers to save a little bit every time they spend, or to donate to a charity, or something most likely that I haven't thought of yet. So far, government has mostly stood on the sidelines as an enthusiastic supporter of payment systems innovation. In the future, we will be testing whether there is a mood for more of a role for government in facilitating some form of open banking. But the role that we play is partly up to you. So I encourage you all to be proactive. Speed and care is of the essence, but I do not want to see New Zealand left behind in respect of the outcomes that open banking could deliver in terms of economic development and the benefit to consumers. But before I wrap up and take questions, I'd like to set you all a challenge. No one is going to be successful standing still in this area, and I don't consider the status quo to be an option. So I'm hopeful that the industry will be receptive to the government joining the conversation about the future of payments and open banking. So once again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I would like to reiterate that the government wants to help foster the payments industry and the innovation, not get in the way of it. We want consumers to benefit from new innovative products that makes it easier for them to manage their money. We want merchants of all sizes and scale and settings to get a fair deal, and we want to be able to innovation to thrive here in New Zealand. I'm hopeful that the industry shares that vision, and now we're happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Minister. Some great balance between the stick and the carrot there, but mostly it's good to see the carrot, I think.
Carrot.
The carrot for the next year or so. So some real challenges for the payments industry. Do we have any questions? We've only got probably 5 minutes because we are running a little bit behind, but any questions for the Minister, please?
Excuse me. Boss. Thank you, Chris. Russell Bryant from BNZ. Lot for us to take in there. Will you be publishing that or sending us your list there? Things you'd like us to do?
I've been told to deliver the speech by word because the speech will get posted on the internet. So,
fantastic.
Yep.
Any other? Yep, sorry.
Hello, Minister.
Hello.
You mentioned that you are looking for an inclusive economy for all. In the digital world, obviously, we're encouraging customers and retailers, etc., to use digital forms. Do you see that there'll be a time when you need to legislate against or protection for basic payment methods, as in cash?
That question hasn't been asked of me yet. I don't think at this stage, I think given even the conversation that Jeff was having before, look, I see the real opportunity across a whole spectrum of daily interactions that New Zealanders have with money, whether it be financial capability or high-end investment. We're going to see more of that. That might be a question more for the Reserve Bank, but Jeff has done his done a session. But I would have to think more about that. That's my honest answer about that.
One last question, perhaps.
How long have we got?
Minister, we met last week,
Hi,
but
Jim.
the API program, we saw in fact, a slide this morning about the API program, which was in fact so complex that it would probably take a century to solve. I wonder if the API program could be speeded up by simply taking parts of it and solving those parts, rather than trying to bury it with the complexity that it currently has.
Thank you. I believe in an earlier session this morning, trust was raised, and we had this discussion last week. I think we have to be very wary of getting ahead of ourselves. There's a lot of work that I think we need to do in terms of security and privacy, which is obviously a bedrock of this, but also understanding how some of the interactions between third parties, those who run the framework, go. So if I think we started releasing functions out ahead of answering some of the more fundamental questions, if that were to be released out into the open and there was a negative experience, then I think we'd lose trust for any further innovations that may come about. I think it's really important that we do the homework first. I think the Australians did us a good turn by having a good look at this. We're taking a lot of guidance from Scott Farrell's work across the Tasman. But I think if we don't do the homework first before we start venturing into this space, because it's so important for us in terms of our own economy, but also how we can grow, that if we don't get that trust with the New Zealand public, anything else that follows could possibly be gone. So that's why I think we have to do the hard work first. I think we've probably
Thank
got
you very
time
much.
for a couple-
Minister, sorry, was there?
There's one right at the back.
One, sorry.
Just make sure we...
Just a quick question about perhaps the role of ensuring access for innovators to the open banking ecosystem,
Yep.
making sure that innovators can get access even if it may come as a detriment or a cost to incumbents. Do you see a role for government providing that, or are you hoping that it will be available naturally?
That's where I think some of the carrot was offered today. I want to work collaboratively, and a really important part of the puzzle for me in open banking is making sure that we do allow space for third parties and innovators to get onto the API framework, because if it works for them and it works for consumers, that there's opportunity overseas. That's not going to happen for our innovators if they find it difficult to get access to the framework. So that's one area that I've got keen interest in. Thank you.